Hello, explorer. Tonight our pages flip to the Bigfoot, an enormous beastly man from the redwood forests of the Pacific Northwest. I would love your support and a quick subscribe, but only if you're glad for the perspective you're about to receive from me. Remember that these stories are fiction and are only based on historical folklore. And feel free to comment what you might already know about tonight's topic and how you learned it. We're very glad to have you here. On to our Native American folklore story. The forest paths feel older than memory, carved not by axe or plow, but by the quiet repetition of moccasins pressing into soil, season after season, until trails formed like lines etched into the palm of the land. Summer is heavy here, with the air damp and very green smelling, carrying the scent of wet bark and mushrooms that grow like small umbrellas in the shade. Pines stand with solemn patience, their needles releasing a resinous tang when brushed, while maples hold out broad leaves that turn the light into a soft green dusk. Walking these paths is not a task of travel, but a lesson in observation, when every snapped twig beneath a foot and every silence between bird calls is taken as a signal. The hunters move slowly, for they know the animals sense noise long before they see shape. Rabbits dart across the undergrowth, their white tails flashing like dropped feathers, while squirrels chatter irritably from the safety of branches. The men and women who carry not just bows and spears here, but also stories that bind them to the land. They tell of how certain birds call out warnings, or how streams never lie, because they always reveal where animals come to drink. Even the way the soil compacts beneath their feet is read with care, for loose earth means something heavy has passed through. There's a rhythm to these walks, almost like breathing. Pause, listen, take 3 steps, listen again. Deer trails cross their own, narrow and soft, winding through thickets where hoofprints have pressed neat crescents into the mud. These signs are reassuring. Yet sometimes the forest shifts. A crow's caw cuts short, replaced by silence that feels heavy rather than calming. The usual smells of earth and pine give way to something sour, like wet animal fur left too long in the sun. It's in those moments that the hunters glance at one another without words, their bodies tensing before they even know why. Villagers who wander the woods describe the feeling as being watched by something too large to hide, though no shape is yet seen. The stories handed down say the land itself changes when such a being lingers. Rabbits vanish, not because they've been hunted out, but because they sense a predator beyond their measure. Branches that should sway lightly in the wind sometimes shift with a weight that feels wrong, oppressive, making them bend low and creak. People who notice these things often speak of them later around the fire, not as warnings but as confirmations, because everyone knows such sensations are not imagined. The land is alive with cues, and for those who have grown up within it, each detail is as clear as footprints on snow. A distant woodpecker drumming on a hollow trunk may sound normal to most ears, but if it ceases suddenly, that silence is taken as more than coincidence. A hunter might press his hand to the bark of a tree to feel whether the vibrations linger, grounding himself in the pulse of the forest before continuing. Children are taught to notice when their dogs grow uneasy, ears flat and eyes darting to the trees. For generations, people have understood that not all presences in the forest are equal. Deer, bear, elk, these creatures belong. They can be tracked, measured, hunted, or avoided. But there are others who do not belong, who move as though stitched into the shadows of the woods, a shape that doesn't belong into the tapestry, but exists nonetheless. They're spoken of in different names depending on the people and the tongue, but their size and the unease they bring remains constant. To speak of them too often is said to call their attention, so when hunters notice strange signs, they tuck these thoughts away for when it's safe to share. Some paths in the forest are avoided, not because they're impassable, but because people feel in their bones that the trail has been claimed by this something else. Elders say that a being taller than any man sometimes walks these tracks, and that the earth remembers the press of its steps long after the ground should have healed. The soil, compacted too deeply, grows no grass. Saplings lean as if brushed aside by something that did not bend to avoid them. One can imagine the unease when walking such a path in late summer dusk, when the sky grows copper at the horizon, but the forest floor is already shadowed. Every sound is sharper, the hum of mosquitoes buzzing near the ear, the rustle of leaves with no breeze to explain it, and the faint splash of something stepping into water. A hunter might stop and draw in breath through the nose, tasting the air. And usually the air will hold the musk of bear, which is unmistakable, but sometimes a fouler odor, the sour one mentioned earlier, clings not just to the nostrils but to the back of the throat. Even when no figure appears in sight, the sheer possibility changes the attention in the journey. Men adjust the grips on their bows, women place hands on the smooth hafts of their spears, and the younger ones glance at the ground more often, hoping to read meaning in every leaf pressed flat. This is why wandering the old forest trails is never a casual task. It's not a Sunday stroll, nor a way to stretch the legs after supper. It is a dialogue with the land, active and clear. Every pine and stream offers its part of the conversation. And though most days the signs point to ordinary life, there are days when it's not clear, when the sense of being shadowed grows too strong to dismiss. The first glimpse is never the thunderous sort of encounter that storytellers might wish for. It comes quietly, in the hush of leaves where no wind moves, in the sudden absence of bird call, in the sense that something vast has turned its attention upon a single human figure standing on the forest floor. This hunter kneels near a stream, filling a skin with cold water, when he notices the rippling reflection disturbed by more than the current. For an instant across the mirrored surface, a shape seems to stand taller than the tree line, a blur that is not bear nor elk, and definitely not man. He doesn't look up immediately, for his elders taught him that his eyes can play tricks when fear is eager. Instead, he finishes tying the skin, steadies his breath, and only then allows himself to lift his gaze. At the edge of the clearing, between two cedars, the figure stands. It's tall in a way that strains the mind to accept. Its head is already brushing the low branches of the trees, and its shoulders are as broad as two men beside each other. The body is draped in coarse, dark hair that looks like wet moss, though in patches the skin beneath shows pale, almost gray. What unsettles most is not its form, but its stillness. See, most animals shift constantly. Their ears flick and their tails swish. Sometimes their jaws will click or chew. But this being holds itself steady as if it weren't a person or an animal. It holds itself as if it's a part of the forest. And only when it exhales does the illusion break. A heavy breath that fogs in the cooling evening air, so thick that you can see it reach the ground. The hunter doesn't shout nor run. He's been told since childhood that such movements call attention. Instead, he lowers his eyes cautiously, letting his ears measure the real distance between them. A branch creaks faintly under its weight, then it falls silent again. When at last he dares to look back, the space between the cedars is empty. No rustling and no crash of footsteps. Later, he makes his way back towards camp, and he notices signs he had overlooked earlier. Saplings bent and snapped, though the wood is green and supple. Stones along the stream overturned, slick undersides glistening with worms. Bears dig with their claws, raking leaves and getting to the soil underneath, and elk snap branches from trees, but there is no animal in the forest that overturns entire stones. When he reaches his village, he doesn't speak immediately. Tradition reminds him that his words will carry weight for the rest of the day, and naming what is not yet certain can bring it closer, or at least bring panic to his people. Instead, he sits near the fire, and his silence is enough to draw glances. Only after the meal, when the bellies are warm with stew of rabbit and wild onion, does he share his account. He makes sure not to embellish and makes it as accurate as he can remember. The others listen in quietly, some nodding slowly, and others are frowning. The elders are not surprised. They remind the gathered circle that such beings walk the woods as long as the trees themselves have stood. Some call it a giant, others a wild man. Its presence is not always violent, but it is never ordinary. Those who see it are marked by the experience, whether through dreams that follow or through the lingering awareness that it exists in the forest. In the hunter's own memory, the most haunting part was not the size nor the smell of the creature, but the stillness with which it could hold itself. That stillness, more than claws or teeth, carries the mark of danger. A predator that moves silently is one thing. A predator that can wait silently is another. Night in the village feels different after such an account. The dogs are pacing the edge of the camp more often, sensing the distress and anxiety in their owners, their ears pricking at sounds that men cannot hear. Mothers pull children closer when they wander too near the dark edges. Even the fire feels less like a warmth and more like a fragile hold of light. Yet daily life must continue. Still, the memory grows heavier in each retelling. Around the fire, the hunter is asked again what he saw, and each time he answers in the same careful way. The consistency convinces the others, but it definitely makes the mood a lot harsher. By the third night, no one doubts that the forest holds a watcher. Night gathers in layers rather than a single drop of darkness, and the people drift towards the central fire the way moths find a window. The village slides into its evening rhythm. Stew sighs in clay pots, bubbling with fat shining like small beads on the surface. Corn cakes lean against stones at the coals, and the usual perfumes cling to shirt and hair. The smell of smoke, spruce gum, tanned leather, and a loyal old dog who could use a bath. Children rush the last of their chores, bargaining for a sweeter share of berries, then fold into their places along the fire's warm edge. By now the hunter's account has spread to everyone in the village, traveling from mouth to mouth easily, and so the elders begin the instructions. Do not leave the village alone, always travel with a companion or more. Do not look for the figure in the trees, and if you spot it, stop moving. Stay steady and wait for it to leave. Avert your gaze and do not attempt to stare at it. Keep your fire steady, not starved nor roaring, because the glare might make this strange being uncomfortable. And if you hear knocking or movement in the trees, count slowly and wait. Short, practical stories follow these instructions. An aunt remembers her uncle tracking elk into a ravine and hearing stones click together in a strange rhythm. He backed away without turning around, treating the sensation as if he was being watched, and by the time he returned to the village and the feeling faded, he knew his instincts were right. Another voice recalls a late autumn berry trip, where low scrub trembled though the air was still, and a sour animal smell rolled over the hill. No chase, no fight, just a firm decision by the gathering party to leave the berries and cedar and take a longer trail home. Between stories, the hands of the people keep working, because steadiness is its own form of treatment for the panic they're starting to feel. Sinew is twisted into fresh bowstrings. A child oils a cracked drumhead with bear fat, so it thrums instead of rattles. A grandmother ties a finger-sized bundle of sweetgrass and sage with red thread and hangs it above her lodge flap. The bundle is not decoration, but a clear boundary. Someone feeds the coals ribbons of cedar. The smoke turns clean and sharp-smelling like the mountain trees, cutting through the heaviness of stew and sweat. Children ask the questions everyone needs answered but is too afraid to bring up. Does the tall one steal people? The elders say beings of the forest are unpredictable. A man with silver in his braids adds that many powers behave that way, and people live beside such neighbors by paying attention rather than picking fights. A woman who mends nets tells the children that her grandmother forbade pointing at lights in the timber. If you must indicate a shape, use your chin. Pointing with a finger is rude, and there's no reason that the spirits or beings in the woods would not understand that. Quieter stories surface next, told with voices lowered by the experience. A woman once heard her father call from the trees while her father was sleeping beside her fire. A boy answered a night whistle and woke up later muddy to the knees, unsure how he reached his mat in this condition. A hunter returns a forgotten scraper to a stump and finds it laid on his bedroll by morning, clean of sap and warm. None of these are offered to frighten, they simply are there to reinforce the conditions and habits that have kept the village safe up to this point. And so it was clear what to do going forward. Make sure that even if you didn't leave the village, you kept companions near you at dusk. If you must split, leave a bright strip of cloth on a branch and say aloud when you expect to return. As another log catches and the fire crackles more, An elder draws a ring in the dust and begins providing more instructions. He explains that boundaries matter. Not every circle is a prison, some are an invitation to safety. So aside from staying within the belt of light after dusk, they must set their sleeping places so that feet point inwards and faces outward, each person in the eyes of another. If something arrives at the edge and stares, a group that breathes together and looks at each other feels larger than it is. Food also serves a duty at this meeting. The stew thickens until rabbit falls into soft fibers, wild onion melts to a sweetness, corn cakes split open and steam blooms like small clouds, and dried berries are softened in hot water until they taste like the last bright day of summer again. A pot of spruce tea makes the rounds, bitter as good medicine and smelling like rain on bark. This helps the camp because a well-fed camp thinks clearly. The elders close as they began, making sure that the manners are clear. Walk with respect, listen more than you speak, keep the children inside the circle, and always make your errands in at least pairs. Pride has always argued poorly with the deep woods. Their guidance lands without ceremony. Night deepens and the line between village and forest resolves into 2 shades of dark, and people move towards their lodges with deliberate calm. The warnings feel practical, and they weigh heavy on everyone's shoulders, but it's a reassurance rather than an oppression. Somewhere out there the watcher may stand, but here the fire circle has done its work. The children know what not to do, the adults know what to watch for, and even the dogs seem to have taken the rules to heart, their noses twitching throughout the night. The next morning the air is brisk, washed clean by a night wind that carried the smell of resin and damp moss through the lodges. The sun has not yet climbed high, but its early light runs like melted copper along the edges of the pines. Villagers wake with a deliberate quiet. It's not fear that drives them, but a steady caution, like hunters checking their bowstrings not because they expect failure, but because they know the cost if failure comes. Preparations begin not with weapons, but with smoke. A fire is coaxed in the center of the village, and into it goes a braid of sweetgrass, bundles of sage, and cedar chips split fine with a stone knife. The smoke rises pale and curls, clinging to hair and skin, brushed over the children with eagle feathers to sweep away stray shadows. Women circle the mats with clay bowls of smoldering herbs, and whisper in their ancient tongue the words of protection to help them feel safe. Charms are made next, as nimble hands transform ordinary things into protection. Strips of rawhide are knotted around painted beads. Feathers are bound with sinew and fastened to doorposts. Tiny bundles of cornmeal and tobacco are tied with red thread and placed at the village edge, where the trails cut into the trees. Each object carries reason with it. Hunters ready their gear with movements learned when they're young. Arrows are checked for true fletching. Stone tips are tested against thumbnail for sharpness. Spears are sanded smooth where palms grip them, hafts darkened with oil so they don't split under any strain, and the bows are unstrung and restrung, each creak of sinew stretched until it thrums. The medicine man, a figure less separate than guide, sits near the smoke and arranges small stones into patterns. Some stones are river polished, others are flaked sharp from quarry. He lays them in concentric circles, speaking to no one but watching how the children watch him. Then he rearranges them, tracing the lines in the dust with his finger. To outsiders it may look like idle movements, but to those raised in the village it's teaching without a lecture. Boundaries must be felt and marked. Food offerings are prepared with the same care as charms. A basket of berries is set aside, the ripest ones chosen. A portion of dried venison is cut small, each piece held for a moment in the hand before being placed neatly on a woven mat. It's an extension of hospitality, a way of saying that visitors, even frightening ones, are recognized, and sometimes recognition is enough to de-escalate tension. Children are also included in the work, because exclusion breeds mischief, and mischief in these times can be very dangerous. A boy ties feathers to a stick and plants it in the dirt near his family's doorway, announcing it will flutter loud enough to wake him should anyone step near. A girl paints small marks on smooth pebbles with some ash, setting them in a circle around her sleeping mat. These inventions are not mocked. Elders know that the children are simply practicing the lessons that they are taught every day. The dogs know their roles as well. After they're fed that morning, meat scraps are tossed to them so they don't wander hungry towards the tree line. Their collars are rubbed with sage, the sharp smell clinging to their fur, a reminder to spirits and strangers alike that these animals are a part of a community. By midday, the village feels changed, not hardened like a fortress, but tuned like an instrument. They do not expect to drive the being away with raw force. That would be arrogant. Instead, they prepare themselves to stand firm, to show they're not helpless wanderers in the woods, but a community rooted and aware of their place in the forest. In the hush that follows all the morning work, the elders speak once more, reminding the people that survival comes from attention, not bravado. To prepare is to show respect to each other and to the village, and even to the one who stirs the unease. So the village waits, the smoke rising slow, the offerings resting at the edge of shadow, and the air carrying that taut, expectant tension of people who have done what they can. The following days pass with an uneasy rhythm, each one stretched thin by watchful eyes and ears tuned sharper than usual. The forest offers no direct attack, no storm of broken branches at the village edge, but the silence is so heavy. Hunters who rise at dawn find tracks near the stream where their fish traps were set. They're wide, nearly twice the length of a man's foot, pressed deep into the mud. What unsettles most is the stride, too long to be human and too measured to be a bear wandering. Bears leave their claws spayed, sometimes dragging marks, but these prints show toes, round and blunt. The first set of tracks is greeted with frowns and stiffer shoulders. By the third morning, when fresh impressions are found leading from the berry bushes towards the village and then veering off again, the people become acutely aware that this being, this large presence, is stalking them and surrounding them. The dogs confirm it. One night they growl low, their hackles rising, pacing the lodge edges while refusing to bark. Children are kept close to the fire circle as expected. Their games moved from the tree line into the open space next to the fire, where eyes can track them. But curiosity simmers as it always does. A boy dares to compare his small foot against one of the prints, and his mother pulls him back sharply, scolding him that to play with these prints is to show the creature that he does not fear it in entirety. The signs grow more unsettling in their variety. Saplings along the path are bent at odd angles, and some are now completely uprooted. A cache of fish left to dry near the stream is found disturbed, not stolen outright but handled as if examined. The fish are bruised and scattered, some crushed. Hunters mutter that this is worse than theft, for theft at least suggests need, but this waste suggests disdain. Nights deepen with small disturbances. Stones clack in the darkness, not in rhythm like drums or in falling pebbles, but in a pattern. Once a log at the fire's edge rolls suddenly, though no one touched it and the wind lies still. The children wake, restless, dreaming of footsteps heavy around the lodges. Their descriptions vary, but they always recall the same smell, wet and sour. Food offerings at the village edge are accepted on some mornings, missing without trace. On others, they're left untouched. This inconsistency unsettles more than outright hunger would have. A being that eats or ignores predictably can be understood. One that chooses when to accept and when to reject is unpredictable. Each day the villagers replace the offerings with fresh portions to maintain the hospitality. It's better to have extended a hand than to be accused of turning away a guest, even if it's a frightening one. Hunters also change their movements. Now they only go in pairs or threes, never alone, and their voices are much softer through the brush than usual, a reminder that they must walk as though the forest is no longer their own. Each one carries more than weaponry. They carry their stories, repeated mantras under their breath. These stories are not old relics, but tools as vital as bow and spear. Around the fire at night, the younger ones ask why such a being is lingering near them. The elders cannot offer an answer, only layers of possibility. One says that the tall ones appear when people forget old manners, when songs to the land grow fewer, or when offerings are neglected. Another says it's simply their season, as natural as salmon running or geese migrating. and others insist the being is carrying messages from the forest itself. None of these explanations ease them, but they do offer shape and an idea of what might be happening, and that's enough. One evening, as a stew of venison and corn bubbles, all the dogs stiffen at once. Their ears fall flat, and all their eyes fix in the same area in the tree line. No figure appears against the shadows, but the same pungent smell drifts in. The villagers don't panic, but they set down their bowls, they draw their children closer, and they all lower their voices. In the silence, the fire crackles with an exaggerated volume. After what feels like hours, but is only really minutes, the smell ebbs like a tide, leaving behind only the faint sting of ash. By now, the watchers of the village know the pattern. The being does not rush and does not strike. It lingers, circles, and tests them. But the message is clear. The village is being weighed and measured. The night takes its time arriving the next day, instead starting with a gray hem over the treetops until the forest wears a single shade. The village answers with their steady habits. A last fetch of water, dogs walked along the inner path, and embers coaxed into a low bed of heat. Cedar smoke is what leads the smell tonight, its clean bite cutting through the damp and the remains of the sour odor. Children lie even closer to the lodge's center, and they remember to turn their feet inwards and their faces outwards. The watchers listen and listen carefully in the dark. 2 stand by offerings at the path's mouth, with berries and cornmeal and thin strips of venison comprising the offering tonight, and others walk the arc of homes, counting softly. But tonight the being makes itself known. After its wet, pungent odor makes itself known, it walks into the firelight, where everyone freezes and takes it in. A shoulder like bark under fur, a forearm ropey as peeled sapling, and a head that turns heavy. No one runs, running invites a chase, and no one approaches it either. The nearest watchers look carefully and keep their hands clenched around their bows. This tall, wild man advances 3 steps and pauses, the weight settling into long feet with a damp, soft sound. Offerings lie between it and the ring of people, simple food on a woven mat and leaf. One hand, which is broad and blunt-fingered, stoops down to lift a strip of venison. It smells it, and then lets it fall back down. Elders teach that eyes are bold language, so the watchers fix their gaze near the visitor's knees to avoid challenging it. Their shoulders stay low and their hands remain visible. Cedar smoke drifts outwards as a soft bridge. The visitor's next step reveals a scale. A bent sapling now looks like a walking stick planted into the ground sideways. Dogs circle behind the huts, low and restless. None are barking, but they are all raised with their hackles high and their eyes wide. A hunter signals to widen the arc so no one stands alone. Wind lifts and drops, and with it the odor pulses. A winter teaching is remembered. Don't crowd a large animal, or you might force it into a decision. Make sure to leave it an opening. So the arc of people loosens at one point towards the stream, a path that doesn't thread through sleeping children. A round stone arcs from the shadows behind the visitor and lands just beyond the offerings. It was not thrown to threaten, just placed. The watchers don't throw back. They pick up instruments now, and they answer with a song. Low, unornamented, the kind used to sink paddles or pace heavy work. The tall being turns its head slowly at the sound, blinking, eyes reflecting a dull shine. It steps back and then forward again, indecisive apparently. For a moment the space is held, and it's a little balanced scale. Then the dogs give a short, clipped bark, only one, and the wild man flinches the way deer do at a snapped twig. It turns towards the opened way. The watchers still do not move, and the song keeps its steady rhythm. The choice arrives. The wild man steps through the opening and follows the stream where the moon spills a thin road. As it moves, one long arm swirls the cedar smoke, and the odor thins. At the mouth of the path it stops, measures the clearing once, and then vanishes into the folded black trees with a heavy grace. Relief moves downwards and inwards, loosening jaws and softening knees that were locked into place. The arc holds until the dogs lie down. Only then do people break their circle and step inwards, speaking in low voices still, and feeding the coals with small sticks that will not flare. The elders pass a bowl of spruce tea. They note that the boundary held and that they're proud of this community. Inside the lodges, children slide back into sleep, and the adults rest but with their boots within reach. Charms tap quietly on the door frames, and the stream keeps its steady rhythm, rustling over stones. Beyond the first line of trees, something large shifts once, then settles. It writes the night as a lesson proved. Preparation turned fear into action, and action became a resolution they could live with. The next dawn rises without celebration, pale and thin, a watercolor light spilling over the ridge and catching the village roofs in muted gold. Sleep's been shallow for most, punctuated by the dogs shifting restlessly and cooing in the night, and the memory of the heavy footsteps at the boundary. But the people rise as they always do, with slow dignity, knowing they made it through. Breakfast is simpler than usual: dried fish softened in hot water, corn cakes roasted slightly, and some spruce tea. A simple fuel for the day for people whose bodies are weary from all the tension of the previous night. By mid-morning, the elders call a gathering at the fire circle. Villagers arrive carrying their tasks in their hands. One is sharpening a knife, another's twisting sinew into cord, and there's a woman still brushing grain from a hide. Work continues even as the attention turns inwards to the circle. The night is spoken of in precise detail, retold as a story so it begins entering people's minds just like the stories before them. The conclusion is simple: the visitor has not departed. Its presence does linger, but it understands the village now and understands the boundary between them. Hunters confirm it by recounting fresh tracks near the stream, toes pressed so deeply the water has yet to refill the grooves. So the plan for the next night is shaped, not like a war council, but like farmers deciding how to brace a roof against storm winds. First, the offerings will continue. To cease them now would suggest weakness or insult, either of which risks drawing aggression from the visitor. Another hunter says he found a branch twisted backwards against its natural bend, the fiber still wet from the strain. So they know they must continue. Second, the noise must grow broader. Last night's song carried them well, but tonight more voices will have to join the drum and rattle. Women prepare bundles of hollow reeds to whistle in low tones to mimic the sound of wind. Children practice clapping sticks together in a steady rhythm, their young energy turned into a vigorous purpose. And third, movement must continue to be shared. No one must stand isolated. It must be pairs or threes always. Dogs will be tethered near the center to keep their fear from scattering into the trees. The medicine man prepares something as well. He gathers a pouch of red ochre and with a sharpened stick marks lines across doorways and foreheads alike. The pigment smears bright, catching the eye even under smoke. To some it simply looks like paint, but to this village it is a wall drawn upon skin and wood alike to create a connection between them and a disconnection between the outside world and their village. As dusk lowers, the village becomes an instrument tuned to a single purpose. Charms sway at the doors still, and now the fire is coaxed higher, and the sound makers are arranged in careful reach. Children are ushered to their mats earlier than usual, but not without involvement. They're given their short sticks to clap in their sleep if they're stirred awake. Adults settle into their roles for the night as well. Watchers on the outer arc, singers by the fire, drummers at the center. When the smell returns tonight, it is again sour and pungent, but the people are ready to face it. The dogs bristle and strain against their ties, but their warning is enough. There's a low blowing of reeds, and it sounds like the wind is picked up. The sticks begin clapping from inside the lodges, and a drum beat grows steady and bold. This tall wild man emerges again, a dark outline between tree trunks, its shoulders moving with a slow, rolling power. This time, though, it finds no quiet opening. Every angle greets it with sound and smoke and eyes that don't look away this time. It lingers a little longer tonight and paces the tree line, its prints stepping deep into the mud. At one point it bends to the offerings, its fingers thick and clumsy, and it grabs a basket of berries, but it doesn't retreat immediately. The villagers answer by raising their voices and their song, and the creature stares at them for a long time before it eats the berries, basket and all. Finally, after long moments, the being lets itself go and steps backwards, deterred again. It turns towards the deeper timber, breaking no branches and leaving only silence in its wake. The villagers know from the reaction of this wild man that it is understood it cannot scare them, and with that it must respect their place in the forest. The next morning returns with quiet decency, slowly climbing into the sky. Signs of the visitor remain, not as a threat but as a record. Fresh prints soften at the edges where dew turns soil into a pasty substance. A sapling bowed 2 nights ago leans more willingly towards light, its torn fibers browning, reminding everyone that the woods mend what they can. By the stream, a faint smear of berries stains the woven mat where offerings rested. In its reeds, a single bundle of coarse hair catches light. The mat is folded and burned with a pinch of tobacco, smoke rising as a small closing of the circle, because objects that touch the edge of the boundary between people and the forest should not linger idly. Towards the evening, a pair of hunters walk the stream to read the last bit of signs that they can find. They find where the tall wild man may have stood, 2 long patches of grass laid in opposing lean, a faint sourness in the air still. They talk in low voices about seasons where signs press close, and seasons when the woods fall soft and ordinary again. Dusk glides down on the trunks, and the village meets it with a quiet heart. Cedar is stacked within easy reach, the drum waits under a woven cover, and the paired watchers share a look that says the line can be held again, because everyone knows their place now. Children have begun to drift to sleep faster, but their short sticks are still on the mats. The dogs circle twice before settling near the coals. The night accepts that this is their boundary, and they move onwards. The people keep their steadiness and their song in mind, and they remember that should this moment come again, they are ready. We're glad for your company in this tale of the pungent and odorous Bigfoot who harassed the Native Americans. Our next story will cover the bathing and hygiene habits of the Native Americans, how they kept themselves fresh and clean. The sun rises slowly over the treetops, and the camp wakes as light spreads through the valley. A thin mist drifts up from the river, carrying the smell of pine and wet grass. People begin moving quietly, each with a task in mind. The river runs close by, steady and calm. Before anyone uses the water, it's greeted and thanked, because it's seen as something that lives and breathes and exists, not just a resource to take without respect. At the edge of the river, the air smells faintly like iron and sap. The water's surface reflects the pale morning sky. An elder steps forward first, standing on firm ground where many feet have stood before. He holds a small pinch of tobacco in one hand and a few grains of cornmeal in the other, simple gifts used for greeting. In many native traditions, these offerings are not a payment, they're just a polite way to speak to the land. Tobacco carries prayers when burned, and cornmeal expresses thanks in a language older than words. He releases both into the current and says a short greeting. Water in this way is seen as alive, with memory and patience, and moods that must be respected. Before anyone steps in, they pause and listen. A woman dips her toes into the shallows and laughs softly at the cold. The chill wakes her completely. Morning bathing is both cleansing and energizing. It clears the mind, sharpens the body, and helps people start their work with good spirits. But elders also teach that bathing resets balance. It removes the heaviness of the previous day, whether that's smoke or sadness, and restores calm between the body and the world. The meaning is both practical and spiritual. Staying clean prevents illness and also shows respect for the connection between land, water, and people. Bathing follows a clear order. Those who cook or care for children wash first, so fires can be tended faster and little ones kept warm. Elders go next, then travelers, then anyone with time to linger. Children learn a simple rule: greet, offer, wash, thank, and dry. They repeat it quietly under their breath as they wait, making small clouds in the cool air as they mutter to themselves. Dogs lie nearby with their heads on their paws, watching the ripples. When the current's too strong, everyone moves to a sheltered pool. Privacy is kept with care. The village maintains a small natural wall of brush and willow near the river to give people a place to change. Voices stay low. Laughter is soft and often shared as an entire community. Soap is made from split yucca root, rubbed between wet hands until it foams. The lather smells green and clean. Yucca grows easily and is kind to the skin, which is why many people use it for washing hair and body alike. Women comb wet hair with bone picks that glide through without breaking the strands. Children scrub their heels with fine sand or smooth stones until the skin feels warm and new. When the river is too cold, a gourd of warm water waits by some red coals, often mixed with mint leaves so that the air smells fresh. Most dry with the sun or the wind. Scents mark the morning as clear as sunlight. Thin lines of cedar smoke drift between lodges. Someone burns sweetgrass, letting its warm smell pass over faces and arms. Cedar represents order and protection. Sweetgrass welcomes peace and kindness. These are symbols, not just perfumes. If sage is burned, it means someone is easing sorrow or clearing bad dreams. The smoke is waved with a feather to calm the mind. Clean habits protect the river and the people. Bathing happens downstream from where water is taken for drinking. No one washes hides or greasy tools where others bathe. If clothes are beaten clean on stones, it happens later, farther along the bank downstream. Children are reminded not to splash others, and a quiet area near the bank is kept for elders who want stillness and peace. Any conversation during bathing is light and practical. Someone mentions checking the fish traps. Another plans to gather spruce tips for tea. A hunter feels the colder current and knows snow must be melting upstream and advises his fellows. These conversations pass down knowledge without lessons or lectures. Children learn what clear or muddy water means, where fish like to hide, and how to smell beaver scent before seeing its dam. Everything has a reason behind it. Cold water wakes muscles and prepares the body for hard work. Cleanliness prevents infection and keeps the camp healthy. After long hunts or funerals, a rinse returns people from heavy feelings to ordinary life. Bathing in this village means everything to them, from a normal day to a day of great extraordinary events. In winter, when bathing outdoors is dangerous, people wipe down with warm cloths or stand near smoke instead. The idea stays the same. A good body is kept clean. Even warnings are part of learning. Children are shown where moss makes the stones slippery and where the current runs too strong to stand in. A forked stick is planted to mark this danger. By the time the sun clears the pines, the camp smells of cedar, wet hair, and breakfast. Fires pop quietly, and steam rises from a pot of stew. People step away from the water refreshed, calm, and ready for the day. They thank the river with a simple gesture, a hand to the chest, a nod, and a few words carried in the breeze. By the second morning, the camp is already running smoothly. Steam rises from cooking pots, shirts are drying on willow branches, and elders move quietly between groups, teaching by example instead of speech. A grandmother shows a young girl where to set a rinsing bowl so sunlight can warm it. An uncle points with his chin towards the downwind edge, where waste pits are neatly covered with ash after each use. The ash dries the ground, removes all the bad smells, and keeps the area clean. Hands begin every task. Before anyone touches food or tends to a child, they rinse at the speaking bowl, a cedar-rimmed basin near the fire. Its name reminds everyone to greet the water before using it, because even when taken out of a natural body, the water is still full of life. On cold mornings, small gourds hold warm splash water so the fingers don't freeze up. When a boy asks why the bowl sits at the center of camp instead of near the river, an elder taps the rim and explains, because here you see it, use it, and don't forget. Simple habits like this prevent sickness better than long speeches of what must be done. Clothing and tools are cleaned next. Shirts and leggings hang above thin cedar smoke that keeps insects away and removes the smell of any food. When stronger washing is needed, women mix soap from yucca roots or soap berries. For greasy pots, they use ash water, lye made by straining wood ash through water. It cuts fat without wasting valuable plants. Pots are then scrubbed with sand or smooth stones to remove any sticking bits. Bone needles and weaving combs are wiped with warm spruce tea so they stay smooth. Laundry lines face the wind so wet clothes dry faster and smoke doesn't blow into anyone's faces. When mornings are freezing, garments are aired and then passed through cedar smoke before being worn again. The layout of camp follows wind and water. Sleeping mats are spread on high ground where sun reaches easily. Sunlight is treated as a simple medicine that drives away dampness and insects. Sweeping happens early so dust and scraps don't get stepped into the ground. Fire pits are cleaned in the morning so cooking starts on clean coals. A clean fire makes clean food, and clean food, well, you know the rest. Even the old camp dog joins in, rolling in cedar branches to freshen his coat and chase off mosquitoes. Hunters have their own routines. They know that strong smells scare deer, so before leaving, they pass their clothes through cedar smoke and then rub river mud on their hands to hide the scent of cooking. Some chew a spruce tip to disguise their breath. Soap is avoided because in the forest it stands out. Past illnesses have also taught order. Elders tell stories about a winter when coughs spread from lodge to lodge. Since then, sleeping mats are spaced apart. Sick people have their own cups, and cedar boughs hang by doors as reminders to brush smoke over clothing before entering. Even in winter, air vents are lifted at midday. Bedding is shaken and sunned downwind. None of this is a ritual, it's just practical care. Food work follows clear manners. Fish are cleaned downstream, where water runs fast. Waste is buried or sunk deep so dogs don't drag it back. Corn is handled with dry hands to avoid spoilage. Shared bowls are common, but each person keeps their own spoon. If someone feels ill, a second ladle appears quietly, and the sick eat last to keep others safe. Dishwater is poured on gravel where the ground can absorb it, never near the sleeping areas. Scent and smoke also carry meaning. Before visits or ceremonies, people pass through clean smoke so yesterday's smells don't enter today's habits. Even hats and belts are held over the smoke. Some people braid a few strands of sweetgrass into their hair or keep a pouch of pine needles at their waist. Everyday tools are also made from what's around them. A rib bone becomes a scraper for leather. A flat stone acts as a washboard. A small willow stick, chewed at one end, becomes a toothbrush. Teeth are polished with charcoal ash and rinsed with mint or yarrow tea. For skin, plants provide easy remedies. Yarrow can cool down cuts, plantain soothes bites, and willow bark eases sore hands. Spruce resin closes small wounds and leaves a nice smell. Cleanliness also shapes the layout of the camp. Butchering happens away from living areas. Hides are dried where wind can pass freely, and puddles are drained before they grow stale. A bucket marked with red string holds only drinking water, untouched by dirty hands or tools. Another, marked with charcoal, is for washing. Toilets are dug far downwind and far from the river. These details keep sickness away, especially during long rains when mud and waste mix easily. Lessons are remembered through short phrases. Sun on mats keeps coughs away. Ash water saves soap. Rinse before thanks tastes right. Children enjoy repeating them and only later understand their deeper meaning. When a boy claims that dirt shows he worked hard, his aunt answers, "Work shows itself. Cleanliness shows care." Elders connect the memories with their habits. A girl learns that washing her hands in warm spruce tea keeps them steady while weaving. A man learns that socks that are smoked lightly over juniper stay dry for much longer. By late morning, the camp smells of spruce tea, damp wool, cedar smoke, and ash water. The speaking bowl is full, brooms lean at the ready, and the river just glints nearby. Small actions repeated each day keep these people comfortable, healthy, and at peace with one another. Spring arrives with the river turning from a bright white to a deep gray, carrying pieces of bark and old leaves. Bathing moves from the open bend to a quiet pool, where the current circles slowly and the gravel bottom is firm. Two willow sticks hold a rope so elders and children can step in safely. There are plenty of brush screens nearby to give privacy. People face the river and the sky though, not each other. Washing starts with hands and face before the rest of the body. The cold water makes skin tingle, but also wakes it up fast. A woman shows a boy how to dip a cloth, twist it tight, and then wipe his arms and neck quickly so he doesn't slip on the rocks. Yucca roots sit in a small basket near the water. When rubbed underwater, they make a light foam with a clean plant smell. Soap berries are used for laundry or sometimes for hair, but only a little at a time. Children learn that more bubbles only means more rinsing. The rule everyone follows is simple: wash downstream from where people drink. Spring mornings can be cold, so small comforts help. A gourd of warm water waits by the fire for babies or anyone with stiff hands. Cottonwood buds mixed with bear grease make a salve for cracked skin. Mint leaves soak in rinsing water so the smell feels fresh and cheerful. When rain makes the river too rough, people dip their cloths in and then do a quick wipe near the fire, then walk through cedar smoke to warm up. In summer, the river becomes brighter and calmer. The surface shines and dragonflies hover above it. The air smells like dry grass and warm earth. Bathing is easier now and lasts longer. People walk downstream to sandy shallows where the ground is firm. Children learn to test each step with a stick before walking in. Summer also brings small comforts. Hair is rinsed slowly because it can be, as the river is calm and steady, and so that the hair doesn't knot. Wooden combs glide through with soft clicks. Crushed mint rubbed on skin keeps flies away. A small layer of oil, made from bear grease mixed with either cedar or sunflower oil, keeps skin from drying in the sun. After washing, clothes dry between saplings, and then pass once through sweetgrass smoke so they smell clean. Even the camp dog gets brushed with a cedar branch to keep bugs away, though it doesn't appreciate the gesture. When people travel, they carry a smaller bathing kit: one yucca root, a short cord for hanging clothes between saplings, a gourd dipper, and a small mat. They always keep washing and drinking water separate, even when rivers look wide enough to forgive small mistakes. Dishwater is poured on dry ground and not in any pools. Habits like these protect everyone and make no assumptions. Autumn brings cold air and slow water. The ground holds chill, even under the sun. Bathing moves to the warmest part of the day, around noontime. The river looks calm, but the first step always feels icy. If the people want heated water, they take stones from the campfire and drop it into a filled wooden tub and then pour it over themselves slowly. The sound is soft and steady. Elders get the first warm water as a sign of respect. People don't rush. They trade the deep baths for gentle rinses to stay steady themselves. Autumn washing smells like spruce and juniper, and those same botanicals are boiled into tea to clean the hands, feet, and tools. Oak or willow bark is added when feet ache from walking. Storms at the end of autumn teach people to adapt. Holes and hides make quick shelters for warm washing, and flat stones keep the bare feet out of the mud. On rainy travel days, bathing shrinks to the small wooden tub. Winter arrives honest and cold. The river's edges freeze, and the water runs narrow and dark. Bathing becomes a quick splash or a rinse through a hole cut in the ice, always with strong hands nearby to warm you up and keep you from falling in. Hot stones are necessary now to warm the water in the trough, and steam rises with a smell like clean rock. Snow also works for washing, a fast rub that wakes the skin. Winter washing focuses on preventing harm. Skin gets a thin coat of oil after cleaning to stop cracks in the ice and dry cold. Hair dries near, but not over, the fire, and everyone makes sure to keep their boots nearby so no one has to step barefoot. People watch each other for signs of frostbite, pale ears, or stiff, trembling fingers. The season's rule is clear: you can stay clean, but you must first stay warm. The same good habits work all year. Wash downstream, keep the drinking buckets clean, and wastewater should never go back into the clean water. Season by season, the goal never changes. Bathing is not just a ceremony, it's a simple daily practice that keeps the body safe and the mind calm. Spring's chill, summer's heat, autumn's smoke, and winter's steam all belong to one habit: starting each day clean and steady. Aside from bathing, the villagers deeply enjoy the use of a sweat lodge. It begins as a small dome made of willow poles. The poles are bent and tied together to form a round frame about shoulder height. Heavy hides or blankets are laid over the top until no light shows through, and then inside it becomes dark and warm. The sweat lodge is meant for cleansing, not just for the body, but also the mind. Many native nations have their own names for it, but the idea is the same. It's a place to release what the body and spirit no longer need, or what may be latching on to harm it. Preparation starts before anyone enters. Stones are chosen carefully from riverbeds or hillsides. They must be solid and free of cracks, because weak stones can burst when heated. The elders know which ones are safe to use. They're dense and heavy, with rough surfaces that hold heat well. These stones are stacked in a fire pit outside the sweat lodge and burned under dry wood until they start to glow red. Inside the lodge, a shallow pit waits at the center to hold these stones. A long forked branch, darkened from use, is used like tongs to move them safely. The floor inside is bare earth, but sometimes it's covered with sage or willow mats for comfort. The door of the lodge always faces east, towards the rising sun, a direction linked with new beginnings, like how you should feel when you step out. Before entering, people remove all their heavy clothing so they don't overheat. Everyone sits in a circle around the pit. When the first hot stones are carried in, they're hissing softly against the branch. A small gourd of water, often mixed with cedar or sweetgrass, waits nearby. When the water touches the stone, steam rises instantly as they hiss, and it fills the air. The heat builds very quickly then. It's not the burn of fire, but a steady, full warmth that surrounds the whole body. Sweat appears on the skin within seconds. Muscles then begin to relax, and joints loosen, and everyone's breathing becomes slow and deep. The air smells of hot stone, earth, and the faint sweetness of herbs. Some people begin to sing or hum quietly. The songs help them focus and keep a steady rhythm of breath. And while the sound fills the small space, it reminds everyone that this renewal process can be quite pleasant if focused. The process happens in rounds. More hot stones are added between rounds, and each time water is poured again to raise new steam. After each round, the door flap may be lifted for a few seconds to let in cool air and light. 4 rounds are common, and each with its own purpose. The first is for cleansing, and then reflection, and then gratitude, and lastly, prayer. There is no competition. If someone feels faint or tired, leaving early is considered wise. There are clear manners inside as well. People try to stay quiet unless a prayer or song is shared. Eyes stay lowered to give modesty, and everyone's movements stay calm. Water is poured carefully, never wasted or thrown. The person leading, often an elder or a spiritual guide, watches everyone closely for safety. Heat is meant to heal, not test pride of who thinks they can take more. When the final round ends, the door opens wide and cool air rushes in. The change feels refreshing and clean. One by one, people step out, steam rising from their skin. And now the outside world feels sharper, the colors are brighter, and the air lighter. Some plunge into the river or roll in snow to close their pores and finish the cleanse. Others dry off slowly with cloth or grass, breathing deeply and smiling with relief. The sweat lodge allows heat and steam to remove more than dirt. They release tiredness, sadness, even anger. People say they feel lighter afterwards, as if their worries have thinned, and the practice brings the community together. It's used before hunts or ceremonies, after funerals, or whenever people feel the need to renew their strength. Sick or weak people may also use the lodge, but always with guidance so the heat doesn't exhaust them. Some groups add extra touches. Medicinal herbs are sometimes sprinkled onto the stones so their scent fills the air. Sage if the group needs to clear their breathing, juniper to sharpen focus, or sweetgrass to bring calm. A hollow whistle may be blown in the dark, its sound meant to remind everyone of unseen spirits. In some sweat lodges, each person says a short word before leaving, such as thanks for family, health, or courage in a previous experience. These short words are simple prayers carried away by the steam. From a practical view, the sweat lodge works well for health. Opening the pores, cleaning the skin, and steam clears the chest. A cold rinse afterwards refreshes muscles and improves circulation. In cold regions where bathing in rivers isn't always possible, the lodges serve as a reliable way to stay clean. It also strengthens unity. Everyone leaves equal, either sweaty or tired or renewed. When the session ends, food and drink wait nearby. Light stews or berries, or even tea made from mint or spruce. Eating replaces salts lost through sweat and helps their body return to normal. The simple food just tastes especially good after the hard labor. People talk quietly, sharing their laughs maybe, but the mood stays calm. In this way, the sweat lodge is both bath and gathering place. It reminds people that staying clean is also about staying balanced, with oneself and with others in the world. Daily cleanliness depends not only on water and bathing, but also on the plants and minerals people use to stay clean. Behind the lodge, women crush yucca roots into long fibers. When the root touches water, it makes a light foam with a clean, sweet smell. Children like to watch it bubble and run the foam over their arms, laughing at the soft lather. Yucca is used across many regions for washing hair, skin, or clothes. It removes grease, keeps hair soft, and leaves a pleasant smell that lasts throughout the day. Nearby, others prepare soap berries in a wooden bowl. The small red berries taste bitter, but are prized for their ability to make foam when mixed with water. The froth becomes thick and white, perfect for washing fabric and hair. Elders remind everyone not to waste the berries on light dirt that river water alone could clean. Soap berries are special and rare, and they need to be used wisely. Some families mix the berry foam with a little clay to make a gentle face mask. The land also provides materials for scrubbing. Fine sand from riverbanks works as a natural cleaner for rough hands and feet. Children use it like a game. They polish stone tools until they shine, while adults use it to also clean pots or soften their dry skin. Different kinds of clay are used too. Green clay cools the skin and removes oil when spread in a thin layer. Red clay, rich in iron, is used more rarely, often as a polish before ceremonies or dances. Native Americans also practiced a lot of smell management in their hygiene. Cedar leaves are brushed through hair or pressed into clothing to leave a sharp, clean scent that drives away insects. Sweetgrass is braided and burned to send warm smoke through hanging clothes, which removes odors. Sage is waved over blankets and mats to clear strong smells that usually stick after meals. Hair care follows the same ideas. Bear grease mixed with herbs keeps hair soft and easy to comb. Adding crushed juniper berries gives it a clean, foresty scent. Spruce resin thinned with warm water works as a natural conditioner that can smooth frizz and add a shine. People joke sometimes that spruce resin makes it so glossy that even ravens would envy it. These oils protect against wind and sunlight. Clean habits extends to their clothing and tools, of course. Soaproot and ash water are used to wash animal hides, so they stay soft and free from odor for use at night to sleep. Clothes are passed through cedar or sage smoke. Even dogs are brushed with dried sage to dull their smell after rain. After washing, people often stand in light smoke as a final touch, similar to what modern people might call wearing cologne. Cedar smoke smells clean and sharp. The choice depends on mood or purpose. Sometimes it can be sweetgrass to smell warm and soft, and other times it'll be sage to smell crisp and cool. Hunters returning from the field choose cedar smoke to remove the smell of animals. People returning from mourning use sweetgrass to feel warm and center themselves. And those who wake tired or restless use sage. Sometimes cleaning also turns into play. When pieces of soap root are accidentally tossed into shallow pools, the water fills with bubbles. Children splash each other with the foam until elders remind them not to waste the plant, though they smile knowing that anyway it's been used. In some places, the same froth is used to stun fish for easy catching, but people are always careful not to overdo it. Every part of nature offers something helpful. Sand rubs the skin clean, roots lather into soap, and herbs scent the air. Together they form a way of life that connects hygiene with respect for the world around them. As evening falls after a normal day, the whole camp smells fresh. The air carries the scent not just of cedar smoke now, but roasted fish. Children lie on mats, their wrists still smelling faintly of mint. Women hang clean clothes that carry the scent of sage, knowing bugs will stay away. Men polish their tools and handle them with clean, sanded fingers. And the camp dog rests by the fire, tired after all the stress of being rubbed by a brush. Morning starts with the smell of spruce tea heating over the fire and the sound of combs moving through damp hair. Hair care is an important part of daily life. It shows not just self-respect, but also discipline and a personal identity. Elders remind children that messy hair reflects a messy mind. Braiding hair keeps it clean, prevents tangles, and protects it from wind and sun. It also shows readiness for the day. After applying special oils that are natural conditioners, a mother might braid her daughter's hair, tying in a red ribbon, and the girl would sit there proudly. Men also oil and braid their hair, especially before hunting or ceremonies. Wearing loose hair is rare and often has meaning. It may show mourning or mark a special event. Cleanliness, however, also includes caring for teeth. Before meals, people chew soft sticks made from willow or birch. The ends fray naturally and turn into small brushes. These are rubbed gently across teeth and gums to clean away food and buildup. Charcoal ash is used as a mild cleaner and whitener. It leaves a dry, clean taste and keeps the breath fresh. Chewing mint leaves or spruce resin also cleans the mouth and calms the stomach. There are also some lesser-known practices that are sometimes added to these routines. Cattail pollen is rubbed into hair as a natural powder to absorb excess oil and freshen the scalp. Clay masks are used to cool the skin and protect it from the sun. Saltwater rinses from mineral springs help clean teeth when they are available. And babies are rubbed with oil after baths to keep their skin soft and help them sleep. Even animals are included. Aside from being brushed, dogs are washed with water and scrubbed with sand, then brushed with the sage smoke to stay clean and keep away fleas. Stories told at night remind these people why the habits matter. One story might tell of a hunter who ignored his hair and suffered bad luck from insects and a smell that alerted all his prey. Another might tell of a cook who didn't wash before handling food and made everyone sick. At night, the routines repeat. Hair is unbraided and combed, teeth is cleaned again with the sticks, and skin is rubbed with oil to protect it from the dry heat of the fires. By evening, the camp doesn't just feel calm, but smells incredibly pleasant. Everyone's hair carries the scent of cedar or mint. Teeth are clean, and their skin feels smooth from oil and herbs. In many camps, women and men bathe at different times. Women bathe together with their daughters, nieces, and sisters. The older women teach the younger ones how to wash their hair properly, how to mix herbs at the right quantity for rinses, and how to care for their skin. The men bathe separately, and they scrub harder to remove the dirt and sweat from hunting or carrying work, also considering that their skin is usually much thicker. They often use sand or ash water to help clean. Special baths are used for healing, however. A woman recovering after childbirth will soak in warm water mixed with sage and cedar to calm her body. A man with sore muscles uses willow bark water to ease pain. Children with fevers are wiped down with cool mint water to bring down the heat. These clean habits also protect the river. Bathing done downstream doesn't just protect what people drink, but what the animals drink. Pots and tools are washed separately, far from where rinses are done. Elders remind the youth that ignoring these divisions will bring sickness. They often tell stories about it, like the tale of a boy who washed fish guts near the drinking place. Bathing also plays a role in emotional and spiritual life. After funerals, mourners might bathe before returning to normal life. They pass through the smoke and feel renewed. The water marks the change between grief and renewal. Some customs are quiet but meaningful. Children ask many questions around the fire. They want to know why elders bathe first, why boys and girls bathe apart, or why people specifically wash after funerals. By evening, they have their questions answered by the elders who believe that the children simply need to understand that every practice has a reason, and each time there is a reason given, it has been tested throughout generations. This is more than washing, it's a way of living. These daily rules build the foundation of good health and a strong community. They keep people in harmony with one another and with nature. Everyone rests knowing they have done things properly, in consideration of each other, and in balance with respect for both their own bodies and their spirits.